Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 193 of Album of the Day, in which for today's album review, I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from a Nashville from an Illinois-based singer-songwriter, who has recently become one of the most critically acclaimed and successful faces in alternative contemporary country music today. And she put out her debut album in 2016 to widespread acclaim, and has recently released her sophomore record in 2017. Of course, I'm talking about the talented Margo Price, which I'm here to review her latest album, which came out on October the 20th of 2017. The album is called All American Made, and as you can see, I have the album on vinyl here, and this is released on Jack White's Third Man Records label. And I came to review this album because this is definitely one of my favorite country records of the year. I'd have to lump it in with my top 20 of the year. And reviews overall of this record have been looking really good. It's made it onto year-end lists for Rolling Stone, Uncut, and it's Album of the Year for American Songwriter in 2017. And there's the back cover. There's 12 songs on this album. It clocks in at over 45 minutes long. And of course, as you can see here, it's got an insert which has the lyrics as well as all the liner notes and stuff like that. And this is co-produced by Margo Price herself, along with Alex Munoz, Matt Ross Spang, and Jeremy Ivey, who did handle a good majority of the production for her previous album. Her debut, Midwest Farmer's Daughter, which I haven't really listened to that record yet, but I heard really good things about it, so that's definitely on my list of things to check out sometime. And it's recorded at the legendary Sam Phillips recording studio in Memphis, Tennessee, along with additional overdubs that were done at Sound Emporium in Nashville, as well as Cartoon Moon in Nashville, and the Pedernales recording studio in Spicewood, Texas, which is Willie Nelson's studio. In fact, there's a duet with Willie Nelson on this album that I'll get into in a little bit. There's side A and there's side B, so nothing real fancy, just black vinyl. And that's the vinyl packaging for All American Made, the latest album from Margo Price. Right off the bat, from listening to the lyrics of this album, I definitely could tell that this is kind of a sort of fierce protest album right here. It's sort of a middle finger to this very turbulent sort of political era that we currently live in right now. And also sort of seeing also kind of an album about a woman trying to kind of stand up for herself and prove that women always should have a place in life and stuff like that. This is definitely a record that sort of this is also a record that really does see her display these sort of sentiments about this tumultuous political era, like it's being like channeled beautifully through some very passionate, wild vocal performances, and also production on here. It's very like organic and natural. It sounds like that good old school country sound that a lot of country traditionalists I think are gonna really get into, and it's not like super sanitized or overproduced or commercialized, so it could make it onto country radio. Country radio. Radio. She's essentially kind of like the female Jason Isbell, like right now, and especially on this record. Right off the bat, with the opening track, "Don't Say It," which features a very like high energy, fun country instrumental, is lyrics sort of telling like those people who are watching her, like, you know, don't say you love me when you treat me this way, and talking about sort of, you know, people kind of ignoring her and acting like she's not quite important. She's just sort of, you know, telling them they really need to think more about the people around them and what they need and what they really want out of them and stuff like that. Then we have the song "Weakness," which is sort of like definitely unmistakably country, sort of old school country territory with its very heartbreaking lyrics and very lively instrumental. I love that hooky fiddle on the track too, along with the pedal steel and the twangy guitars. Definitely sound really nice on there. Some nice crisp drums and bass, and the acoustic given just enough rhythm. Some honky-tonk piano as well. It's definitely some very solidly produced instrumentation here. And the lyrics sort of talk about how sometimes her weakness is just like stronger than her, like, and I love how she drops in references to Virginia Woolf and James Dean on the opening verse on this track. And Josh Headley's harmonies sound really nice on there too. And then after that, the track "A Little Pain," which features some really gorgeous hooky string embellishments and organ over the twangy guitars and piano. Sort of talks about how some people think that it's just all work, that it's just no work and all fun and stuff like that, but sort of saying how a little pain and doing some of the things that maybe make you uncomfortable and, you know, stuff like that aren't gonna hurt you because it's just what you got to do in order to help people. And sort of talking about how she's always on the run, working like a mother and stuff like that, and sort of admitting that she feels a little bit of insecurity with it, but at the same time, it's sort of feeling good about it because she's sort of saying a little pain never hurt anyone, and her vocals on this track are definitely one of the best performances on the album, especially when she hits those high notes at the end of the chorus. Definitely amazing. And there's also a really cool live performance of the track on Stephen Colbert. You should definitely check out. Then we have the song "Learning to Lose," which is a beautiful, like, heartbreaking duet with Willie Nelson, and their voices together have a lot of chemistry. We have Margo with the very sweet on the ears, kind of introspective voice, and then we have Willie Nelson coming in with kind of an urgent, very mature sort of drawl, with that distinctive voice that you could try to imitate Willie Nelson's voice, but I guarantee you it's not going to sound the same. Sound the same, and it's just like classic country duet right here. Duet right here, and sort of lyrics about like growing up and sort of wondering like is winning like learning to lose. And the instrument and the production on this song, it sounds like some pure like old school like country gold with its twangy guitars, really beautiful strings over it, and it definitely does sound something that Willie might have cut sometime in the 70s or 80s because it's got the distinctive voice, his with his unique voice, along with his very kind of raggedy gut string guitar playing, along with Mickey Raffles' harmonica sort of howling in the background. It's very nice. It's definitely a very nice track here. And then we have the song Pay Gap, which is probably the most bona fide bluegrass almost country song on the entire record with its organic instruments. I mean, it does have electric guitar and stuff like that in it, but it's driven by instruments like accordion, dobro, and mandolin as well. It's the kind of song that at first may seem like kind of a silly like bluegrass number, but if you really pay attention to the lyrics, you'll realize this is actually a very serious track here, lyrically, sort of addressing how young women today are like given abuse, and that's kind of unfortunately been happening to a lot of women since 1776, as she says in the lyrics, like sort of talking about women being treated like slaves, and how they may tell us we're in the land of the free, but sometimes that bell don't ring true. That's poeticism right there. And sort of, it's definitely really satisfying to hear her go, "Don't give me any of that feminism crap," sort of. So she literally like kind of takes a jab at feminism and stuff like that. But not only is the writing and the vocal performance on here fantastic, but of course I really like the very fun instrumentation and those gorgeous dobro and accordion solos in the middle. Then the song Nowhere Fast is a song sort of about another song that definitely does see a sense of maturity in the songwriting, like in the songwriting, and sort of talking about how she feels more alone all the time, and she like packs her bags and stuff like that, and she tries to like go see her like friends and family again because she's missed them so much, but even they quit calling her on the phone, asking her how she's been, and sort of addressing how we all kind of tend to live kind of a lowly life sometimes. Times that's just kind of repetition of late night drives and roadside, like in the line of all those late night drives and those roadside dives, and you can't get a decent meal or enough sleep behind your eyes. And also, really like the production on this song, like the swelling mellotron strings, along with that beautiful groaning baritone guitar snarl. Guitar snarl, which makes this song that much more memorable musically, and also once again very like gorgeous vocal performance, especially in that beautiful sort of eerie end section. And then we have the song Cocaine Cowboys, which you can see right off the bat from the title that this is a song sort of taking a jab at the music industry, and how as she was like trying to get noticed in Nashville, she like got noticed also by all these like people from New York, LA, and Seattle that don't even know one bit about country music, and also that, don't like work on farms and stuff like that, and the only country music they know is the stuff about dirt roads and hot looking girls and stuff like that. And it's sort of a thing, and sort of like using this cocaine cowboy metaphor to sort of describe them as like people are just trying to kind of tell her what to do and stuff like that. And she sort of wishes someone like told her to warn her to stay away from them because of what they always force you to do and stuff like that. And you definitely will at first see that sort of sentiment not only in the chorus but also in the second verse, when she talks about how the crowd thins out the longer they play. You can't write a song about nothing to say. Ain't that the truth, Miss Price? Price. And then we have the song Wild Women, which once again definitely has that old school country vibe to it, with the organic instrumentation. Oh, and I also wanted to point out in this Cocaine Cowboys track, not only is the writing very like truthful and very smart, but also at the same time, but also the instrumental on that track definitely has a very interesting, it's kind of like a funky country song almost, with the wah-wah guitars, the very funky drumming, alongside some psychedelic electric piano, and there's even a touch of synthesizer that's being incorporated in the instrumental, which somehow manages to work, alongside some kind of psychedelic background female backup vocals on the track too, which sounded really nice. Anyway, back to this Wild Women track. This is the one song where Margo seems to talk about how she doesn't want trouble, but it's all she ever seems to find in her life now. And then in the chorus, sort of talking about how she wishes she was more like the wild women that don't worry as much. Which this is a good song, but I will admit that I will admit that it's kind of not quite as strong on a lyrical standpoint. I find the chorus to be kind of maybe a little cliched, and how it's sort of shade and kind of shade and stuff like that, in the sense of how she doesn't want to worry anymore and stuff like that. Even though the female backup vocals on this track I thought sounded really nice. Nice too. The song Heart of America is kind of a song that sort of talks about how life was when she was born, how her dad always got in his tractor every morning and started tending the fields and stuff like that, and her mom would always make a pot of coffee on the stove and stuff like that. But then sort of talking about how once the big banks and the government came up, since she grew up in the era when Ronald Reagan was our president, and sort of talking about how it was never the same because they were trying to make every farm dry their own corn, as well as sort of taking every field that her family owned, and it's done over a very nice instrumental that's pretty stripped back, with acoustic and electric guitars, some drums that sound like they're being played with brushes, alongside some bass, piano, and mellotron strings too. And Jeremy Ivy's harmonies on the track, I think, go really nicely in the chorus as well. Well, and sort of talking about how at the end of the day, if the rain don't rain, we just do what we can, sort of creating a sense of optimism for this vignette that she creates here on this track. And then we have the song Do Right By Me, which is another track that's kind of a little more unconventional for a country track, as this song actually has more of a soul sort of flavor to it. I mean, it does have country elements, including a really nice kind of wailing harmonica in the background, but it's definitely soul in the sense of the funky Wurlitzer piano. A really good bass line on the track too, and also does have kind of a twangy finger-picked guitar styling on there too. And it's a song, and she sort of tells her audience to just like do right by her, like if they can't do right by themselves in this day and age, how some people climb the ladder till they end up at the bottom, spending all their precious time on money, fame, and stardom. And the McCrary sisters provide some really soulful, hooky background vocals of "Do Right By Me" that do sound incredible on there as well, and really make the song this song is definitely like one of the most fun on the album, even though it is one of the shorter tracks on the record that does kind of end abruptly for some odd reason. Then we have the song Loner, which is definitely easily one of the highlights of this album. I mean, easily the most introspective song on the entire record. I mean, she really does sort of break out of her shell on this one, both vocally and in terms of the lyrics, and sort of talking about how there's really nothing actually wrong with being a loner. I mean, even a nobody's somebody too. Really putting in some truth into this song and really coming through with definitely one of her most kind of introspective, like melancholy tracks on the record. So, I mean, right off the bat, she just pulls me in with lyrics like, "Being born is a curse, dying young is worse. Finding love is the meaning of life. In the land of freedom and invisible chains, you get what you pay for. Sometimes you pay twice." Sort of talking about how, like, badly, like, women are treated in, like, this day and age, and really, like, for a really long time, actually. And sort of wanting some sort of freedom to sort of get out of those invisible chains they seem to be in all the time. And also really beautiful track musically as well. Musically, I mean, there's some kind of haunting fiddle and electric guitars on the track, and also I love how there's kind of like echo effects going on the guitar to create sort of this eerie atmosphere, eerie dark atmosphere, and also there's the usage of an ebow, which definitely does sound really cool on there too. Cool on there, and definitely has one of the hookiest acoustic guitar riffs from Jeremy Ivey on the entire record. So he definitely did a good job with his writing and production on this album. In fact, he actually wrote this track himself. He just kind of tailor-made it for Margo to sing it to make people believe that it's really her story right here. And then the album closes with the title track, All American Made, which is definitely another track that right from the first few lines I am pulled right in, and I almost get goosebumps when I hear her talk about stuff like Ronald Reagan selling weapons to the leaders of Iran, as well as the line of, "So tell me, Mr. Petty, what do you think will happen next? That's all American made." And this is right after a few weeks. This is a few weeks after the unfortunate sudden death of Tom Petty, one of the greatest rock and roll icons that ever lived. So if you're a huge Tom Petty fan, this line, warning, it's probably going to make you burst into tears. It's into tears because it's so like beautiful and surreal how She sort of talks to the soul of Petty and sort of asking him, what do you think will happen next? And it's no surprise she actually says this, because I didn't know this till last night, but I did find out that Tom Petty's early, like, 1970s work actually was a pretty big influence on this record, but still at the same time, definitely with Margo's own original talents and very unique personality with her voice. And she also wonders if the president gets much sleep at night, and if the folks on welfare are making it all right. But I'm dreaming of that highway that stretches out of sight, and that's all American made. And musically, this is definitely the most stripped back, probably the quietest song on the entire record, but it really has an impact still with her very powerful voice and lyrics as well. But alongside its minimal guitars, we do have all these samples of different radio broadcasts of, like, American leaders making speeches and stuff like that. I think I heard maybe a little bit of Martin Luther King speech probably being sampled on this track. And there's also really nice usage of backup vocals at the end from the East Nashville Orphan Choir, which definitely does sound very beautiful at the end there. And also credited in the liner notes is, like, Moog synthesizer, which I'm pretty sure that may be, like, a bass line in the background, or possibly, like, kind of triggering all the samples of the radio broadcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely an incredible record. I definitely would have to put it in, like, my top 10, like, country records of the year, because it's, like, very powerful, ambitious, political, and definitely like, organically produced, and of course a very powerful voice, which definitely is enough to make me sort of understand why so many critics are hyping her up so much ever since her previous record, which ended up on a bunch of year-end lists for 2016. And this album is certainly doing no exception for 2017. So definitely a strong 8 out of 10 on this new Margo Price record, All American Made. I highly recommend you check out this record, and I'll see you for episode 194.